What if just 60 seconds a day could help support a sharper memory after 60? Not 60 minutes, just 60 seconds. According to a growing body of neuroscience research, even a brief daily mental exercise may help activate the brain networks involved in attention, recall, and memory. Yet surprisingly, most adults over 60 have never been taught this simple habit. Now, here's the part that caught researchers' attention. In one well known study involving thousands of older adults, scientists noticed something unexpected. The people who maintained better memory as they aged weren't necessarily the ones taking the most supplements. They weren't spending hours solving crossword puzzles, and they didn't simply have better genes. Instead, many of them shared one remarkably simple daily habit, one that took about a minute to complete. When researchers looked more closely at brain function, they found meaningful differences associated with this type of regular mental engagement. So, what exactly were they doing? I'll reveal the 60-second brain exercise later in this video, but don't skip ahead. Because if you learn the exercise without understanding why it works, there's a good chance you won't stick with it. And consistency is what matters most. Over the next few minutes, you'll discover why memory often begins to change after age 60. The surprising brain network involved in remembering names, faces, and everyday details. The common mistake that may be making forgetfulness worse. And finally, the simple 60-second routine that many experts recommend as part of a healthy brain aging lifestyle. If you've ever walked into a room and forgotten why, struggled to remember someone's name, or spent 10 minutes looking for your glasses when they were right in front of you, then this video is for you. Stay until the end because the final exercise is so simple that many people dismiss it at first, until they try it consistently. Let's begin. My name is Dr. Natalie Brooks. For the past 22 years, I have specialized in memory and cognitive aging, which means my entire career has lived inside one question. Why do some brains stay sharp after 60 while others start to slip? I have sat across from thousands of patients, men and women in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, who walked into my office terrified that the forgotten word, the missed appointment, the name that would not come, was the beginning of the end. And what those thousands of cases taught me is not what most people expect. The pattern I kept seeing was this. It was almost never the big, frightening thing they feared. It was something small, something mechanical, something happening quietly inside the brain that nobody had ever explained to them, and something that in most cases could be improved. Not with a prescription, not with an expensive clinic, with a movement that takes less time than brushing your teeth. Now, before we go one step further, I want you to do something for me. Drop one word in the comments right now, just one. The thing you forget the most. Names, passwords, why you walked into a room. I read every single comment, and I promise you, you are going to see hundreds of people who feel exactly the way you do. You are not alone in this, not even close. Let me be very clear about what this video is and what it is not. This is not going to tell you that memory loss after 60 is normal and you simply have to accept it. That is the myth, and it is wrong. And it is not going to tell you that your memory is doomed by your age or your family history. That is the fear, and it is also wrong. The truth sits in between, and almost nobody explains it clearly because the truth takes more than the 11 minutes the average doctor has with you. Here is what is actually happening inside your head. Somewhere after the age of 60, a region of the brain called the hippocampus, the small seahorse-shaped structure that acts like the save button for new memories, begins to lose blood flow and volume if it is not being used in a very specific way, not just used, challenged, and the way most of us live after retirement, comfortable, routine, predictable, is the exact opposite of what that structure needs to stay strong. But here is the good news, and this is the part the research is genuinely excited about. The hippocampus is one of the few parts of the human brain that can physically grow new cells at almost any age. Scientists call it neurogenesis. And in study after study, one type of stimulation triggers it faster than nearly anything else. That is the science behind the 60-second exercise. That is why it works. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand it well enough to start doing it tonight. So stay with me because before we get to the movement itself, You need to know the three warning signs that your hippocampus is already starting to shrink. And the very first one is the sign almost everyone ignores. Warning sign number one is the one almost everyone ignores. You walk into a room and you forget why you came. Most people laugh it off, they call it a senior moment, and move on. But here is what the research actually shows. That exact lapse, losing your reason for doing something the moment the room changes, is one of the earliest measurable signs that the hippocampus is struggling to hold what scientists call working memory. The short bridge between an intention and an action. When that bridge gets weak, the thought falls off before your feet reach the doorway. It is not a joke. It is a signal. And the sooner you notice it, the more you can do about it. Warning sign number two is the one that scares people the most. The name that will not come. You are talking about someone you have known for 30 years, and their name is right there on the tip of your tongue, and it simply will not arrive. Researchers call this the tip of the tongue state. And while everyone has it once in a while, the frequency is what matters. When it starts happening several times a week, it usually means the retrieval pathways running out of the hippocampus are firing more slowly than they used to. Slower. But here is the part that gives me hope for every patient I see. Slower is not gone. A slow pathway can be trained to fire faster. A missing one cannot. That difference is everything, and we will come back to it. Warning sign number three is the sneakiest of all because it does not feel like a problem. It feels like being organized. You start writing everything down. Lists for the grocery store, notes for names, alarms for pills, reminders on the phone for things you used to just remember. Now, there is nothing wrong with a list. But when you lean on it for everything, something quiet and dangerous happens. The brain stops rehearsing. And a memory system that is never asked to work is a memory system that shrinks faster. Neuroscientists have a phrase for this: use it or lose it. It is not a saying. It is biology. So let me ask you something right now and be honest with yourself. How many of those three did you recognize? One to two, all three. If you are nodding along, I want you to understand that this is not a reason to panic. It is a reason to pay attention because every one of those signs points back to the same small structure. And that structure responds to the right effort faster than almost any other part of your body. Now, here's the question that really matters. Why does this start after 60 and not before? And the answer is not simply age. Age is the excuse. The real reasons are three things happening quietly at the same time. First, blood flow. After 60, circulation to the deep brain slows, and the hippocampus is one of the hungriest structures in your head. It needs oxygen, and it needs it constantly. Starve it even a little, and it weakens. Second, novelty. When we were young, life forced new challenges on us every single week. New jobs, new faces, new places. After retirement, the calendar gets comfortable. Same chair, same route, same faces. And comfort, as good as it feels, is the enemy of a growing brain. Third, sleep. After 60, deep sleep drops sharply. And deep sleep is exactly when the hippocampus files the day's memories into long-term storage. Miss that stage, and the memories were never really saved in the first place. Read those three again because there is something powerful hidden in them. Blood flow, novelty, deep sleep. Every one of those is something you can influence. Not one of them is fixed. Not one of them requires a prescription. And here is the truly remarkable part. There is a single simple activity, something you can do in about a minute that touches all three at once. It pushes fresh blood into the hippocampus. It forces your brain into novelty. And done at the right time of day, it even improves the depth of your sleep that night. That is the 60-second exercise. That is why it is not just one more brain game on your phone. It is working on the actual machinery underneath your memory. The same machinery those long-term studies were measuring. But before I show you the movement, you need to understand the one myth that stops most people over 60 from ever trying it. The belief that has quietly done more damage to aging brains than any disease. Because once you see through it, everything about the next few minutes is going to make sense. Here is the myth. For most of the last century, even doctors believed it. The idea was simple, and it was crushing. They taught that you are born with all the brain cells you will ever have, and that from a certain age onward, it is all downhill. Every year, you lose a few more. Nothing grows back. Memory fades, and that is just the price of getting older. If you are over 60, you have heard some version of this your whole life. And if you believe it, you will never try because why would you? Why work at something that science says is already lost? But that science was wrong. And I want to be very clear because this is the single most important thing I will tell you today. In the late 1990s, researchers proved for the first time that the adult human brain grows brand new neurons. And the place it grows the most is the hippocampus, the exact structure that runs your memory. This finding was so surprising it changed textbooks around the world. Your brain is not a fixed account that only ever loses. It is a living thing that responds to what you ask of it at 60, at 70, at 80, and beyond. Let me give you the proof that made me a believer because it is remarkable. Scientists in London studied the brains of taxi drivers, men and women who had to memorize thousands of streets across an enormous city. When they scanned those brains, they found something stunning. The hippocampus in those drivers was physically larger than in people who did not do that work. Not because they were born that way, because the constant demand on their memory had grown the tissue. The brain got bigger in the exact spot that was being challenged. That is not a theory. That is a measurement. So sit with that for a moment. If demand can grow the memory center of the brain in a working adult, then the right kind of demand done on purpose, a little every day, can do the same for you. Your age does not close that door. Your habits do. And habits can change tonight. Now, here's the piece that ties it all together, and it is where the 60-second exercise comes from. Growing new brain cells is only half the job. Newborn neurons are fragile. Most of them fade away within weeks unless something keeps them alive. And scientists have found the thing that keeps them alive. It is a protein your brain makes called BDNF. You can think of BDNF as fertilizer for the brain. When BDNF is high, new neurons take root, connect, and survive. When it is low, they wither before they ever do you any good. And study after study has shown that one thing raises BDNF faster than almost anything else you can do without a prescription. Can you guess what it is? It is not a pill. It is not a puzzle. It is movement. Specific movement that raises your heart rate briefly and demands coordination at the same time. That combination, effort plus coordination, floods the brain with BDNF and pushes fresh oxygen-rich blood straight into the hippocampus. That is the whole secret. That is why 60 seconds done correctly can do more for your memory than an hour of sitting and doing crossword puzzles. The crossword works one narrow skill. The movement feeds the entire structure. And I need to stop here and say something honestly because I have watched it happen in my office too many times. The saddest patients I ever saw were not the ones with the worst memories. They were the ones who had given up. They believed the myth. They decided it was too late, so they stopped trying. And the stopping is, what did the damage? The brain took them at their word. It is not too late for you. As long as you are breathing, that structure can still respond. I have seen it in patients in their late 70s. I have seen it in patients past 80. So let me ask you this before we go on. Are you willing to give your brain 60 seconds a day? Just 60? Because if the answer is yes, then what I'm about to show you could change the next 20 years of your life. The difference between watching your memory slip and watching it hold, steady, sharp, and yours. The movement itself is simple. You can do it in your living room. You do not need a gym, a machine, or another person, but there is a right way and a wrong way, and the timing matters more than you would think. Let me walk you through exactly how to do it step by step, starting right now. Here it is. The 60-second exercise is called cross-body coordination, and the reason it works is hidden in the name. Every time you move a limb across the middle of your body, you force the left and right halves of your brain to talk to each other in real time. That crosstalk lights up the hippocampus and floods it with exactly the signal we have been talking about. Add a simple thinking task on top, and you have hit blood flow, novelty, and coordination all at once. Let me show you the whole thing. Step 1, stand up if you can, with a sturdy chair or a countertop right beside you for balance. If standing is not safe for you today, this works seated in a firm chair too. Feet about hip width apart, shoulders relaxed. Take one easy breath. Step 2, lift your right knee and at the same time bring your left hand down to tap it, then switch. Left knee up, Right hand taps it. Right, then left, then right again. You are tapping the opposite hand to the opposite knee, slow and controlled. This is the crossbody part, and this alone is doing more for your brain than most people do all week. Find a gentle rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. You should feel your heart rate lift just a little. That little lift is the fresh blood heading north to your brain. Step 3, and this is the step that turns a nice stretch into a memory exercise. While you are tapping, I want you to count backward out loud from 100 by sevens. 193, 86, 79. Do not worry about getting it perfect. The struggle is the point. When your body is doing one pattern and your mind is doing another, your brain cannot run on autopilot. It has to build new connections to keep both going. And building new connections is the entire goal. That is novelty and coordination fused into one. That is the exercise. Cross-body taps plus backward counting by sevens for 60 seconds. It looks almost too simple to matter, but simple is exactly why it works, because simple is something you will actually do every single day, and daily is what grows the tissue. Now, a few honest adjustments because I want this to fit your body. If tapping your knee is hard on your hips, tap your opposite elbow to your opposite hand out in front of you instead. Same crosstalk, gentler on the joints. If counting by sevens feels overwhelming at first, start by counting backward by threes or simply name the months of the year in reverse. December, November, October. Any task that makes your mind work against the movement counts. As it gets easier, and it will get easier, make the thinking part harder. That rising challenge is what keeps the brain growing instead of settling. Let me tell you about a patient because she taught me something. She was 74, terrified after her sister was diagnosed with dementia. Convinced she was next, I gave her this exact exercise. 60 seconds every morning right after her coffee. She almost did not bother because it seemed too small to matter. 6 weeks later, she came back and told me she had remembered every name at a family reunion for the first time in years, and that she had cried in the car afterward out of pure relief. I am not promising you a miracle, but I am telling you what I have watched happen more times than I can count. Here's a mistake I want you to avoid because almost everyone makes it. Do not do this exercise fast and sloppy just to get it over with. Speed is not the goal. Effort with attention is the goal. 60 focus seconds beats 5 careless minutes every time. And do not skip the thinking part because it is uncomfortable. The discomfort in your mind is the exact feeling of new connections forming. If it feels a little hard, you are doing it exactly right. And please, one word of care. If you ever feel dizzy, short of breath, or unsteady, stop and sit down and keep that chair beside you. This should challenge your brain, never your safety. Check with your own doctor before starting anything new, especially if you have heart concerns or trouble with balance. So now you have the movement and you understand why it works. But knowing an exercise and actually keeping it are two very different things. And there is one specific way to lock this into your day so you never forget it. There is also a simple timeline of what to expect, what you should notice by day 3, by day 7, and by the end of the first month. Let me give you that next because that is what turns 60 seconds into a lasting change. So, let me give you the trick that makes this stick because an exercise you forget to do is worth nothing. The secret is to attach it to something you already do without fail. Doctors call this habit stacking, and it is the most reliable way I know to build a new routine after 60. Do not tell yourself you will do it sometime today. Sometime today never comes. Instead, tie it to an anchor right after your morning coffee, right after you brush your teeth, right before you sit down for the evening news. Pick one thing you already do every single day and let it be the bell that tells your body it is time. Within a week, you will not even have to remember. The coffee will remind you, and I would gently steer you toward the morning if you can. Doing this exercise early wakes up the brain, sharpens your focus for the whole day, and does not interfere with your sleep the way late activities sometimes can. 60 seconds after your coffee. Now, let me tell you what to expect. Honestly, so you are not discouraged because the changes come in stages and knowing the stages will keep you going. In the first 3 days, you will notice something, but it will not be your memory. It will be the exercise itself getting easier. The taps will feel less clumsy. The counting will trip you up less. That is your brain already forming the new pathways. Do not underestimate that. That smoothness is proof it is working before your memory ever changes. By day 7, most people tell me the same thing. They feel a little sharper in the moment, more present. Names come a touch faster. Walking into a room feels clearer. It is subtle, and you might even talk yourself out of it. Do not. That subtle lift is real, and it is the foundation of everything that follows. By the end of the first month, if you have stayed consistent, this is where it becomes undeniable. This is where the new neurons your brain has been growing are no longer fragile. They have connected. They have survived. Patients come back at the 4-week mark and tell me they trust their own mind again in a way they had quietly given up on. That is the goal, not a party trick. Your confidence in your own memory restored. But here's the truth I need you to hear because it is the whole game. This only works if you keep doing it. Miss a day, no harm done. Miss a week, and you are back where you started. The brain is generous, but it is honest. It keeps what you use and it lets go of what you do not. 60 seconds is a small price for the next 20 years of remembering your grandchildren's names, your own stories, the life you have built. That trade is not close. Take the 60 seconds. Now, I want to hear from you because this is where it becomes real. In the comments below, make me a promise, type the words I'm in, and tell me your anchor. Coffee, teeth, the evening news, whatever you are going to tie this to. Writing it down makes you far more likely to actually do it. And I read those comments. You will see hundreds of others starting right alongside you. And there is real strength in that. And if this helped you understand your own brain today, do 2 things for me before you go. First, share this with one person over 60 that you care about. Someone who has been quietly worried about their memory and does not know that 60 seconds could help. You might be handing them something they have needed for years. And second, subscribe because next week I am covering something that connects directly to everything we talked about today. The 3 ordinary foods sitting in most American kitchens that quietly starve the hippocampus of the very fuel it needs to grow. If you are doing this exercise, you do not want to be undoing it at the dinner table. That video will matter. Before I go, one important reminder. Everything I have shared today is for education to help you ask better questions and take better care of yourself. It is not a diagnosis, and it is not a replacement for your own physician who knows your history. If you have real concerns about your memory, please bring them to your doctor. Early questions are always better than late ones. You are not too old. It is not too late. And your memory is not gone. It is waiting for you to ask it to work. Give it 60 seconds a day starting tomorrow morning. I believe in you. Take good care of yourself, and I will see you next.